This guy's name is Sehun. In addition to being handsome, the male lead also has a curvy body, making women have to use eggs. His job is a veterinarian outside of work. Sehun also has a job catching greed. The male lead is a professional assassin. When he was a child, his life turned her up. Sehun is killed by someone driving a car. Fortunately, he was saved by a foreign man. Mr. Tan not raised and trained the male lead to become an assassin. The adoptive father hopes that his son will succeed in the future. He teaches Sehun the basic principle of becoming an assassin, which is to never be soft in front of the enemy. At that time, the son hesitated, not daring to deal with the sucking dog. The father immediately took the gun instead, but Sehun stopped him. The adoptive father immediately blinded his son to punish him. This formed the male lead's commanding personality. When Sehun grew up, his adoptive father was no longer as strict with him as before. Instead, he suffered from senile dementia, which added to the disease of retirement. He always thought that someone was going to assassinate him. The father forgot his son, suspected Sehun of being an enemy, and his adoptive father immediately took a gun to him. Fortunately, the male protagonist uses killer skills. He avoids all the passes. Sehun immediately controlled his adoptive father, but for fear of hurting him, he did not dare to force his hand. Therefore, the male protagonist was stabbed by his father. Luckily, it was just a wound. When he helped his father calm down, he treated his wounds himself. The next day, the male protagonist advised his adoptive father to return to the garden early. He agrees with Sehun, but he needs to complete his last mission, which is to assassinate a drug dealer. The male protagonist wanted to do this on behalf of his adoptive father, but he did not agree. In the morning, the drug dealer was targeted by the assassin. The old assassin rushed and trembled again, and after a good opportunity, he had to find another way. At this time, Sehun discovers that his adoptive father is not at home, knowing that he has left for the mission. Mr. Lean went to look for him, and the male protagonist quickly broke into the drug dealer's house. Mr. True called the name of the doorman in just one note. On this side, the assassin begins to carry out Plan B. The old assassin breaks into the house. The bodyguard spotted the stranger, but he let it pass. This guy acted very carefully, and he told his accomplices to come and arrest him. The whole group rushed to catch the old assassin, and the bodyguard quickly controlled him. Suddenly, someone with a face came. It was Sehun who came to save his adoptive father. He called all the bodyguards. Seeing this, the superior took the father as a hostage, and he shot the old man in the leg as a warning. The male protagonist worked hard so that this guy dragged his adoptive father into a room. The bodyguard asked the old assassin, "Who schedules him?" Seeing that the old man stiffened his mouth, he immediately took action against the assassin. The main South is taking a different action. First, Sehun planted a bomb in the house. Then he took control of their boss. The drug lord was threatened, and he called the bodyguards to come according to the male lead. When she invited them to leave, Sehun went to find her adoptive father. He went to the east to flee, and on this side the bodyguards found the boss. He had long since stopped breathing, and the leader became angry. Suddenly, he discovered a strange sound, but it was too late. The bomb exploded, causing the bodyguards to disperse. Only the superior was still alive, and he swore that he would definitely retaliate. At this time, Sehun has brought her adoptive father home. He was too seriously injured. The male protagonist tried to save his father, but he did not agree. The principle of an assassin: when he is exposed, he must die. Before he died, his adoptive father gave the male protagonist a family photo. Unexpectedly, the family member who killed Sehun was his father before. To understand the cause, he went to find his family. The adoptive father said his last words and then stopped breathing. The male protagonist painfully accepts reality. On the other side, this is Sehun's best friend. He went to meet a mysterious woman. He is the trustee. The woman asked her best friend to talk to Sehun, not wanting the male protagonist to work for her. After that, his best friend sent the male lead a photo. Living narrowly with the adoptive father gave to Sehun, so the male protagonist to call his friend. Later, Sehun learns that the trustee knows the secret of his identity. The pain man said that every time the male protagonist helped him solve his goal, he would give him a clue. The male protagonist fell into deep thought. A few days later, this man was hunting with a gun. Standing on the cliff, he spotted the target. Suddenly, a masked person jumped over the cliff. The male protagonist threw the rope, pulling the man's leg into the precipice. After that, Sehun went to the inspection side. He injected the man with a dose of medicine so that he would die completely. The police came to check the scene. They concluded that the man died by accidentally touching the mountain. But the Hunzi policewoman didn't think so. The heroine found traces on the cliff, along with the victim's unnatural expression when she died. She thought it was a murder. Hunzi wants to investigate the case clearly. On the way back, the female protagonist meets the male protagonist. The two of them work together to save the injured child. Sehun gave Hunzi the name of regret. There was an animal that needed to be saved first to come to him. When returning to the station, the heroine encountered some previous cases, all related to a death book which was found by the police 9 years ago. Those who died unexpectedly, like the current victims, are named in the notebook. A police officer laughed and said that she was wearing a wall coat. The heroine immediately took the pen and threw it directly into his mouth. The autopsy party had the results. There are indeed many irregularities. The victim was injected with cadoculin in the body when he died. This is a kind of euthanasia, which hardens the body of the deceased. Behind the house, the male protagonist did not find anything useful. Suddenly, Sehun discovers that there is a bomb here. He immediately rushed out. Fortunately, the male protagonist escaped the bullying in time. Now Sehun received a phone call. Something warned him not to continue looking for his family. Otherwise, they would all die. On this side, Hunzi recalled an important clue. In a case 9 years ago, there was a survivor. She had a scar on her head. Hunzi began his investigation from this important clue. In the evening, she returned home. Suddenly, a cat ran past the car. Seeing that the cat was injured, the heroine remembered the business card and took it to the male protagonist. Sehun is surprised when Hunzi comes to her. After that, the two work together to save the cat's life. Hunzi kept thanking Sehun. The male lead accepts the sincerity of the female lead. After that, the policewoman moved to share a house with Sehun to take care of the cat. The male lead's neighbor girl was dissatisfied with her sister. In the morning on the way home, the heroine saw the scene of her housemate being taken away by the thugs. Sehun prepares to rescue the little girl. Hunzi immediately followed him to take the first step. The leader was treated beautifully by the girl. The two accomplices saw this and attacked Hunzi. The male protagonist helps her single-handedly take down both bad guys. Sehun tells Hunzi about her sister's situation. She was orphaned at a young age, inherited a large fortune, including the houses they were renting. The other guys were her relatives. They wanted to share their property, so they always came to disturb their sister. Hunzi understands and sympathizes with the neighbor's situation. The next day, the male protagonist received an anonymous letter. Someone mentioned a secret 19 years ago. Han Tam wanted to challenge the male lead to joke. Sehun quickly made many close friends. Supan planned because of the IP of the person who sent the message. When he learned the information about the male protagonist, he immediately took action. On the other hand, the police team is investigating a kidnapping and tax trafficking organization. The heroine wants to go inside to investigate. The colleague cut the membrane, interrupting the communication signal. Hunzi took the opportunity to pretend to be a repair worker. She successfully entered the house. Suddenly, the heroine discovered something unusual. After that, a girl rushed out from the room to ask for help. Seeing that it was exposed, the children surrounded the Hunzi. They discovered that she was a police officer. The name of the Russian gave the subordinate a decree to execute Hunzi. On this side, the male protagonist went to the house based on his position. The mafia with hot goods threatened, so Poon gently dealt with him. When he found out that the heroine was being controlled, he immediately lured the children to fall and relieve the girl. Leave them and push the male lead to the end. But he alone corrected the children in one note. Hunzi chased after the Russian. She held a gun and forced him to surrender, but this guy used a trick. He pulled out a gun and shot at the heroine. Luckily, Supun came in time to save her. He dropped the gun in the Russian's hand, and the scene of him saving the beauty touched Hunzi. The Russian saw that his consciousness was not good, so he ran away. Supun immediately chased after him, and Hunzi pointed a gun at the male lead. Who is the helper? Supun doesn't care about missing the girl. He rushed after the Russian name. He was able to provide a load of passers-by. The male protagonist accelerates to cling to the car. The Russian did everything he could to get Supun to fall. It turns out that they have an old opponent to play back. The Russian name is the subordinate of the ghost merchant who died before. The cart rushed away at the speed of the altar. The Russians withdrew and attacked the male protagonist. Supun reflexively kicked him out. Suddenly, he realized that there was a group of children in front of him. The male protagonist steers away from them in gloves. Cars rushed into people's houses. Fortunately, no one was injured, but at that opportunity the Russians fled. Supun loses track of him. He turned around and left. Today is Hunzi's birthday. The male lead organized a small party for her. The two sat down to eat ice cream cake and confided. Hunzi told Supun about his childhood memories. When the heroine mentions her best friend in the orphanage, the male protagonist emerged with some familiar feelings. Perhaps he was sympathizing with Hunzi. The two have known each other since childhood. At this time, the male lead's best friend was arrested. The foreigners wanted him to tell the location of the male lead. At first, this young man was very stiff and he insisted on not declaring. As if they were about to go down, the guy had to say it. The next day, the male protagonist helps the female protagonist handle the wound on her face. He found the Russian looking outside the door. He was challenging the male lead. Supun decided not to give up on this guy. On the other side, the congressman is having an interview. His company researches artificial insemination. It is of great interest to the Korean people. In an interview, the MP stated that this will help people make important steps. However, no one knows, success now has had to sacrifice a lot of things. When they first conducted their research, many problems arose. Dangerous to the lives of children created by artificial insemination. Unable to accept that, a scientist wants to withdraw from the plan. The speaker advised him to stop him as if he couldn't, and immediately showed his true face. When the scientist arrived home, he found his wife and daughter dead. A mysterious man knocked him unconscious from behind, and they followed the house, took the lives of his wife and daughter. Luckily, he escaped with a life. After escaping, the scientist called the congressman for help. But he did not expect that it was the congressman who ordered this. Knowing that the murder plan had failed, he immediately sent someone to try the scientist. They had killed the scientist, but now suddenly he was back. Perhaps the assassins did not complete their mission, but they hid the congressman. At this time, the scientist began his revenge plan. The people who died were all related to the old research plan. The MP was not worried if he has the guts to come back. We will play with him to the end. The next day, the male protagonist's neighbor came to the school and saw the Russians selling after her. He sent a message to the male lead, feeling that his sister was in danger. The male protagonist immediately went to look for the little girl. Luckily, that little girl didn't happen. When he took his neighbor back home, he gave her a whistle. If in danger, spit it up. The little girl thought this was a joke. The neighbor constantly teased the male lead with a whistle. Suddenly, the Russian man came. At this time, the neighbor knew that this should not be a joke. The little girl was about to blow the whistle, but the Russian name could not be left still. Fortunately, the sofa appeared in time. He rescued his sister from the accident. The little girl hid in the room in fear. The situation was encountered many years ago by my neighbor. It haunts her until now. Sokinside is gaining an advantage over the Russian. Affirming the wrong gun, the male protagonist of the little sword stopped him. Sukun also quickly attached the locator to that person. He gave him a knife to remember today's lesson: never touch my relatives. Seeing the unfavorable situation, the Russian ran away. After finishing his work, he went to his sister's ceiling. He took the girl to the hospital for care. Based on the positioning, the male protagonist discovers the direction of movement of the Russian name. He set out to hunt him down. On the other side, Hunzi is questioning the Russian accomplice. After a few simple coaxing tricks, she made them accept to reveal the location of the foam. The police immediately set off. However, when they arrived, the police did not find anything at all. One of the brothers immediately snatched the lemongrass on the prisoner's body. Everything around him left. Suddenly Hunzi discovered something. When they opened the door, the girls were cornered inside. The police immediately rescued everyone. On the other side, the shogun found the location to be located. He gently dealt with the guard. After that, the male protagonist finds the Russian name. He put the hot goods on him. This guy used a trick to play dirty games with the shogun. As soon as he pulled out his gun, he was pinned to his hand by the male protagonist. He pleaded with the shogun earnestly, saying that he would give him the secret of his identity. The male protagonist has some force. Suddenly, a man came and strangled him. The Russian took the opportunity to rush forward with a knife. The shogun let his bronze float to block the blow. This time the Russian name did not have any more chances. The shogun sent him back to his grandparents in an instant, no matter how the police found the body of the Russian. During the examination, the forensic doctor did not find any remaining shrapnel. But he had an important clue. The knife marks left on the victim's body, similar to a case that occurred many years ago. The policewoman deeply denied everything. It is possible that these two cases have the same perpetrator. Suddenly, a prosecutor appeared. He is the one who has just been sent to take on this case. The prosecutor has a few useful clues. He would reveal it to Hunzi if she agreed to go out to eat with him because he wanted more evidence. She was forced to accept this. After the meal, the prosecutor took the heroine home. He also shook hands with Hunzi and he saw it. His attitude suddenly became unusual. Perhaps the shogun had begun to know jealousy. The next day, Hunzi received a copy of the prosecutor's dossier sent to her. He thanked the heroine for the meal the day before. Hunzi traced a new clue again. At this time, the neighbor appeared home. She remembered the story of the past. At that time, someone murdered her relatives. This person was none other than the shogun's adoptive father. He even planned to deal with the child. Seeing this, the shogun crushed his hand to stop it. For the sake of the innocent child, the main mother saved her life. Remembering everything, the neighbor's child became sad again. In the morning, she went to the park to relax. Hunzi called. She was about to answer the phone when the shogun appeared behind her. "I had a meal for my neighbor." The little girl mentioned the scar on her boredom. The same things happened. By chance the heroine heard this. She began to have doubts. Hunzi called to ask the neighbor's background investigator. In the evening, his close friend came to look for the shogun. He had just escaped from the hands of foreign thugs. A close friend came to ask for a residence in Chao Nam Chin. He will help the main person investigate his background. On the other hand, the congressman is having a meeting with a senior official. This official knows the secrets related to Congressman AI. He was trying to make a profit from him. The congressman accepted the request and made him anticipate it. When he returned home, someone sent a lean message to the congressman. The scientist of the past is still alive. The congressman immediately got angry and dragged his subordinate's hand out to beat him. That year, he let the scientist escape. Then they took him to be processed. But this woman let go of the subordinate. She was the counselor's secretary. Why did she do this? The next day, the main melasma received a new mission. This time, he will assassinate a high-ranking official. The number of troops began to follow him. He came to treat the official's dog and managed to get into his house. The main melasma attaches the eavesdropping device under the bladder and unlocks the close. Inside, he found a document about the orphanage he used to live in. Wrap up the book for the information of the children who have been raised here. However, the page that the main melasma needs to find lacks the most important information. He began to have many doubts. The number of troops decided to go to the orphanage to investigate. Here, the main melasma recalled a part of the lost memory. Back then, he was considered a monster by his classmates and chased away. There is only one lady who cares about melasma. Returning to reality, the number of troops heard a noise coming from the next room. The heroine also went to the orphanage. Then, she found information about the orphanage for the blind. In the pile of documents that the prosecutor gave to that position, Hunzi wanted to come here to find out. She remembered a few things from the past. The heroine also comes from this orphanage. At that time, Hunzi's best friend was taken away in front of him. The love-loving calf was scared and didn't dare to do anything. Suddenly, Hunzi discovered that someone was watching. She approached the number of troops, and the main man quickly hid. Seeing no one, the heroine left. As he was about to leave the orphanage, Hunzi discovered that someone's motorcycle was parked on the side of the road. But she had no doubts. When she got home, the heroine saw that motorcycle again. She came to ask her neighbor, and she told Hunzi that it was Sogun's car. The next day, the heroine invited the main lady to eat. She wanted to ask where Sogun had gone last night. He did not answer the girl's question. The friend quickly changed the main body to explain. Back in the room, Sogun said to his friend. He began to suspect that the heroine, maybe Hunzi, was his best friend in the orphanage. At this time, the main woman was eavesdropping on the official's name talking to someone. He knew that this person was the murderer who had killed the children in the orphanage. Sogun asks his best friend to investigate him. Knowing the location of the murderer, he came to find him. He wanted to ask the reason he killed the children in the orphanage. The The murderer didn't say a word and turned to attack the main man. Sogan used several skills to control him. Suddenly, he realized that this guy was the one who had pursued him, taking the opportunity to be vigilant. The murderer escaped from his hands. He picked up the vegetables and threatened the main man. But he angrily knocked him down, and suddenly someone came over. Afraid of being discovered, Sogan turned to leave. The murderer was lucky to escape a lifetime. Today, the counselor's secretary went to see a man. This is the same scientist who was assassinated 9 years ago. The secretary is his inner man. It turned out that the scientist was the one who entrusted and ordered Sogan to work. He wanted to avenge the incident that the congressman had caused to his family in the past. Now back, he carries the Buddhahood of a glorious peasant. As for the female secretary, she saw the cruelty of the counselor. The prison guards murdered the children, so they wanted to help the scientist against him. The female secretary recalled that at that time, a woman took a child from the orphanage. The child was later adopted by a wealthy family. The whole family was targeted and killed cleanly by the assassin. Fortunately, only the child survived. He would be an important witness to arrest the counselor's name. This child is none other than Sogan's neighbor. On the other hand, her close friend receives the trustee's new information. That person sent the bridge the location of the residence of a female evildoer who used to work in an orphanage. Sogan received the information and immediately set out to look for him. He went to the old woman's house. But she was afraid that she would run away, and she told the old woman he just wanted to find his identity. After that, Sogan left his phone number and told him to leave. That night, the main man came to a narrow session with the female lead, and the two took each other for a walk. Hunzi admitted that she was also an orphan who used to live in that orphanage. In the past, this place was no different from hell. They made the orphans do hard work. At that time, Hunzi had lived a very miserable life. She just wanted to die. But thanks to the encouragement of a friend, the heroine is motivated to continue living until now. That friend had turned hell into heaven, and Hunzi wanted to see his childhood best friend again. The next day, the heroine came to find the person she had asked for, and he investigated the neighbor's information. The girl was adopted. The neighbor's grandfather was the victim in the case 9 years ago. At that time, she had a wound on her head, and it was very likely that her neighbor was a witness to the case. Knowing this, the heroine returns to find the girl. But the neighbor refused to tell her any information. On the other side, the old woman contacted Exo Hun again. She would tell him what she knew. Suddenly, the confirmed man broke into the old woman's room, and he was sent by someone to testify as a witness. When he arrived too late, he could only find the old woman's phone. When the main year returns home, he sees the scene of Hunzi questioning his neighbor because he remembers what happened in the past. The little girl shed tears. Then the neighbor woke up and left angrily. The little girl hid in the room crying alone. Hunzi wanted to chase after her to clarify everything, and rushed to stop her. This is more to say later. Hunzi walked heavily and sat down in a corner. The five mains saw her sad. He immediately rose to a hidden heart. Rushing to find a neighbor to eat, the little girl still couldn't stop crying, and even chased the main year out. The next day, Hunzi visited the grave of a senior. The reason she wanted to break this case was to find out the goalkeeper who had harmed her senior. The main year also follows Hunzi here. When the heroine left, the new bucket came closer to observe. He realized that the person in the photo was the person his adoptive father had killed 9 years ago. That night, Hunzi returned home. She met Exo Hun again. She invited the 5 main men to drink a deep beer. The heroine told the main year that she had found the person she needed to meet. After that, Hunzi handed Exo Hun a candy. He clenched his hands, and there were vibrations in his heart again. Perhaps the 5 main ones really liked the heroine. At this time, Exo Hun's friend received a phone call, and the time to complete the task had reached the last rank. Knowing the news, Exo Hun immediately prepared. He broke into the official's house, put a gun to his head, and the 5 main men did not have a gun right away. He wanted to ask the official about the deaths of the children in the orphanage in the past. This guy kept denying his guilt. He ran out of patience and was about to see him off, but suddenly his niece came in, and the 5 main men had to hide in a corner. He remembered what happened 9 years ago. The neighbor girl of Exo Hun also fell into this situation. The main year did not have the heart to take action. Taking that opportunity, the official escaped for a lifetime, and his bodyguards rushed in to search for him, but he quickly disappeared. The next day, the official reopened the live stream, announcing that he would run for president, arguing with the speaker's name. This startled the council chief, and he said to the secretary, Go and settle this matter. She called the scientist, informing him that the assassination plan had failed. On the other hand, when he saw the live stream, he immediately went to blame the rush. Why didn't he complete the task? Didn't you say that you were a professional assassin? 5 Zheng showed a cold attitude, and Exo Hun said that he did not want to continue killing. What he wanted now was just to find out his true identity. He himself was very angry after hearing this, but at the same time he was a little worried if we don't complete the task, we will have to pay a heavy price. He himself was frustrated and left, and in the morning when the official met the assassin, he gave the assassin a necklace. This is a list of children in the orphanage who will be useful in overthrowing the parliamentarian. During the upcoming presidential campaign, the official asked the assassin to kill him, and he wanted him to help him find an orphanage. After the investment chairman company, this may be where this company continues to carry out trials on children, just like they used to do with the children in the orphanage in the past. But he didn't expect that this assassin was the speaker's henchman. He brought all the things that the official asked him to tell the chairman. He went to an orphanage and they were doing experiments on children like they had done in the past. At this time, Sogun's friend was sent a position by the trustee. The male protagonist left to arrive. He found a photo of a little girl. Sogun recalled that in the past, this girl was Hunzi, but she died of illness. The current Hunzi is just a replacement. The male protagonist has found a part of his memories. Sogun returned home. He said to his best friend, "Now the male protagonist doesn't want to continue working for the trustee anymore. But if that person wanted to touch the people next to him, Sogun wouldn't let him go." The friend couldn't advise the male lead to be helpless. In the morning, the heroine came to find a person who drew vibrating legs. She wanted to reactivate the assassin's face. In the pile of paintings, Hunzi recognized a person. It was Sogun. Suddenly, she remembered the things that had happened before. The heroine suspects that Sogun is the killer who caused this serial murder case. Then Hunzi returned to Sogun's clinic. She found a box of Kadakalin in the male lead's closet. Euthanasia was injected into the body of the victim of the fall of the mountain. Suddenly the male lead appears. Hunzi asks who Sogun is all his life? But the male protagonist didn't say anything. He considered the person to leave. When he went outside, the male protagonist received a call from the trustee. He threatened if Sogun didn't complete the task, the person next to him will have to die. To warn the male lead, he drove quickly to the Hunzi ticket. Sogun realized something unusual, and the male protagonist immediately spread over to the female protagonist. In anger, he saved her life. Then the male protagonist turned away coldly. Now, he was very nervous. Sogun was determined to find the trustee, because he dared to touch the person next to him. But first, the male protagonist wants to ensure the safety of his relatives. He will follow the trustee's words to assassinate the official. Today, he is on an election campaign. After careful preparation, Sogun set his sights on the sights. The official immediately ate a pill with no fever, and the people saw this and immediately rioted. After finishing work, the male protagonist left the scene, and the police quickly arrived. Hunzi saw the assassin, and she immediately chased after him. The heroine ran down into the Sogun. He didn't bother to be distracted and went on. She sounded a warning, forcing Sogun to put his hands on his head. Hunzi wanted to know the assassin's true face. The male protagonist quickly did not have lice on the female protagonist. He handcuffed her and left. Hunzi was helpless as if she couldn't do anything more, and her teammates then came to her rescue. News of the incident, the candidate for the presidency was assassinated, quickly spread. The council chief also heard this information, and he contacted the assassin. It turned out that the council chief also sent someone to kill the official. But Sogun was one step ahead of him. The speaker began to worry about the scientist's public act of revenge. The parliamentarian's secretary called the scientist, and she announced that the assassination plan had succeeded. But at the same time, the female secretary was worried. The hired assassin would turn around and bite them. At this time, Hunzi returns to look for the male lead. She suspects that Sogun is the assassin of the official. The female protagonist interrogates his alibi rescue certificate. The male protagonist calls a colleague. He says that Sogun was at work before the time of the murder. Hunzi had no words left to question the male lead. She sickled away. But the heroine didn't expect that Sogun had asked her friend to lie to create her alibi. On the other side, the head of the council's subordinate was still alive, and the secretary let him go at that time. This guy is investigating who broke the news that the scientist was alive. Let him be punished by the council chief like that. But what the subordinate didn't expect, the address of the sender of the message was right in the company. Through the photo, he also recognized this person. The subordinate brought everything about it to the chairman. Sadly, he gave himself another chance. The speaker found out that the insider was a close female secretary. He ordered his subordinate to investigate the incident clearly. At this time, the police began a special investigation into the dead tree of the official. After an autopsy, they determined that this was a tree of mental death. However, if it weren't for this shot, the official would still have died. Forensics found the poison in the corner of the victim's eye. Someone secretly poisoned the official to death. Proved that not one but two buyers killed him. On the other hand, after completing the mission, Sogen received another photo. This is a photo of Hunzi. The male protagonist suspected that the trustee was nearby observing him. The next morning, a man brought the tree to the male lead's office. My neighbor bought them. With the assassin's intuition, Sogen realizes something is not right in the man. The male protagonist suspects that he is spying on him. At this time, the police began investigating the people who came into contact with the official. The assassin was also taken to the interrogation station. Hunzi met him, and the heroine recognized this person. It was the person who used to assault her at the orphan's father. The feeling of obsession still exists in Hunzi's heart. Suddenly someone called the heroine. She used the excuse to go out to answer the phone, but there was still a lot of fear in her heart. The heroine's mother came to look for her. She wanted her to return home, but Hunzi did not agree. The woman struggled to leave, not expecting that Sogen was watching the heroine's mother. Seeing his mother go, he also drove behind. This must be her house. The male protagonist realized that this was the place he had come to find his best friend. Sogen breaks inside. He discovers that this is the house in the photo that the trustee had sent earlier. On the other side, the speaker was talking on the phone. He discusses a secret plan, and there is a child who is about to be put on the operating table. He woke up frightened and wiped away for help, but let the child be as far away as the child was captured. He had his organs surgically removed by the evildoers. The whole process was sent to the speaker's machine. They want to let the parliamentarian know how far the plan is going. But he was still partying with the nobles. Sogen walked into the parliamentarian's room, and he had just seen them doing things to the baby. The male protagonist returned to give evidence, and suddenly someone walked over. Sogen turns off the machine and hides in a corner. The speaker walked in, everything went well, the child who knew how to get the dead organs. Their uncle's plan was also gradually exposed. The parliamentarian wants to take the organs of orphan children and sell them to rich people. Let them be grafted into their children and grandchildren. No one will suffer from congenital diseases or organ damage due to accidents. Taking from the living to save the dead is an act that loses all humanity. At this time, the council chief approached the south side where he was hiding, and suddenly someone rapped the door of the room. An old man walked in. He wanted to thank the speaker, his nephew, for a successful organ transplant. The speaker said that what he did was useful not only for children. The parliamentarian also wants to perform organ transplants on the elderly. The parliamentarian's ambitions were so great, he didn't like to sacrifice poor children. The male protagonist stood aside and listened to their stories. He was very angry at the cruelty of the rich, especially the parliamentarian. The two poor men left, and they found in the room a picture of the council chairman. He had met that face before, the one who wanted to kill the chalk. The male protagonist regained another part of his memory. He left the house, and now the revenge plan officially began. Returning home, the male lead sent the recorded video to the trustee. She received the message and immediately contacted her, wanting to know the information about the name of the counselor. Otherwise, he will change his target to the trustee. She began to feel uneasy, and the female secretary came to find the scientist. She was afraid that the male protagonist would find them, but the scientist was not worried, because he still holds an important card in his hand. If they make a move, they will take action against Hunzi. On the other hand, the assassin was released because he could not be convicted. Hunzi was helpless when he saw it. She returned to the police road, and someone sent the heroine a package. Inside was an article about finding a child skeleton on the deserted mountain next to her to work. Hunzi went to see the writer of this newspaper. He said the incident had been drowned by someone, and the person behind them could not be poked. The journalist told her where the skeleton was found, and Hunzi wanted to come here to investigate. But her mountain search was returned. The heroine did not let this happen like that. and in the evening she and her colleagues went up the mountain to search. Hunzi dug up something. In the place where the journalist pointed out, "I didn't expect this to be a murder. Who is this person?" On the other side, the female secretary was being invited to dinner by the speaker. Suddenly the male protagonist appeared. She was extremely surprised. Sohun asked the female secretary, "Is the speaker his father?" She replied, "The council chief is a biological father." Sohun was born using the artificial handiwork method. However, he never raised him. On the contrary, he wanted to kill Sohun. What is the reason? Then the video he got was clear. The female secretary gave the male protagonist the next goal, which was to go to the head of the parliamentary circle. He didn't accept to obey anymore. On the contrary, he even threatened her. But the female secretary was not afraid. She had grasped Sohun's weakness. If he didn't act, the person next to him would have to die. At this time, the chairman went to the meeting, and Sohun quickly left. The speaker walked in and sat across from the female secretary. He wanted to verify whether the secretary was a traitor, from her own mouth. The female secretary showed an unusually calm attitude, answering the speaker's questions softly. He gave a fake smile because the speaker was so clear. Suddenly, he received a phone call. The plan to move the orphan children in the orphanage is being implemented. Hearing this, the female secretary went out of her way to inform the scientist. He asked her to calm down. It would be for their assassin. Suddenly, a wise man came and dragged the female secretary away. What are they going to do to her? The next day, the forensic doctor reported the results of the autopsy to the policewoman. This is the body of an old woman. After getting the information, Hunzi went to her house to investigate. In the house, the heroine discovered a piece of paper. On it was a person's phone number with the same name, none other than Sohun. Hunzi hid the piece of paper. Then she returned home to find the male lead. On this side, Sohun entered his best friend's room. He discovered that his friend was secretly exchanging information with the trustee. It turned out that he was the other person's inner West. Nam is officially angry with his best friend. From now on there are no more friends. He left silently. When the male protagonist goes outside, he touches the Hunzi. She asks Sohun, "Why did you come to the old woman's house?" The heroine took out the piece of paper she picked up earlier and gave it to Sohun. She told him that the old woman was dead. The male protagonist fell into deep thought. He thought that it was because of him that the old woman was murdered. The heroine led him into the house to talk. Hunzi asked Sohun, "Why did he come to find the old woman?" The male lead told her that she used to work at a Vietnamese orphanage in the past. "So have you learned anything more?" Things are slowly progressing even though it's not a pretty memory. But he must know clearly. Suddenly the heroine received a call. She went out to answer the phone. The male protagonist saw that in the female protagonist's book bag there was a notebook. It was the death book. Sohun opened it and looked at it. The people he had killed all had news inside. Then the female lead walked in and led the male lead away. Outside, the Hunzi borrowed Sohun's phone. He didn't fall in love at all, but he already wanted to control people. But Sohun has erased all traces. The heroine laughed helplessly. She saved her phone number to the male lead's phone. "If you need someone to confide in, call me." Sohun's face seemed to have a new use. "I went to the parliamentarian who was having a closed meeting. With the assassin and the chief of staff, he wanted to invite the female secretary to lure the scientist hiding in the darkness out. At this time, Hunzi and the prosecutor came to interrogate the parliamentarian. Because the police found the body of an elderly woman near the orphanage. The same rumors about the paint set were released 19 years ago. Hunzi suspected that everything was going to her adoptive father, but the speaker still refused to admit anything. He said that everything was just a coincidence. The heroine had not stopped. She took out an article about the illegal artificial intelligence experiment that the parliamentary company often conducts. Hunzi said that everything was not simply a rumor. The parliament speaker still refuted. He advised his daughter to end everything here. The heroine and the prosecutor swallowed bitterly and left without being able to get any more salt. The next day, Hunzi and her colleagues investigated who had sent her the book the day before. Through investigation, the heroine discovered that the sender was her father's close secretary. Hunzi called her, but the secretary was being caught by the thugs. She remembered her colleague locating her phone. On the other hand, the scientist could not contact the female secretary. He became impatient. The scientist used the locator to search for the female secretary. He sent a message, informing the Sakun to the designated place. Scientists think this may be where the children are locked up. Nam Chan immediately set off. He arrived and searched around. On this side, the heroine called her colleagues to get information. Then she left for the location to be located. Here, Hunzi saw Sukun's car, and she called him on the phone. At this time, the female secretary was in a tight voice, and the chief came to sit across from her. The secretary said that the evil things you do can't be hidden forever. But the parliamentarian laughed because they had a solid support. As long as they had potential and power, everything became easy. Suddenly, the speaker received a call, and the news sent to spy discovered Hunzi. He told them to deal with it quickly. Don't let this place be exposed. The soldiers immediately obeyed the master, and when Hunzi was calling Sukun, someone attacked her. The male protagonist immediately saw the cry and quickly ran over. Inside, the chief of parliament signaled the assassin to take action against the female secretary, and took the towel over her head. Seeing the soldier strangling Hunzi, the male protagonist flew out with a plank, and he helped the female protagonist up. The soldier was about to hold the Sukun flat stick, and he threw his power at him. Suddenly, a sober man rushed to sneak up on him, and Hunzi gave Sukun a swoop. The soldier turned and ran away, and the heroine told the male protagonist to report to the police. The soldier ran inside to report the news, left them sickle and carried the female secretary and fled. When Sukun went inside, there were no more shadow dancers. The next day, Hunzi was in the hospital, and her adoptive mother came to visit her. She didn't want her daughter to get involved in this dangerous thing anymore. The heroine didn't agree. After that, she and the prosecutor went to the location yesterday. Here, Hunzi finds an earring with blood stains. The heroine contacted the forensic doctor, asking them to check whose blood was on it. On the other side, Sukun returns home. The male protagonist finds information about the missing male scientist. This man is similar to the person who used to come to his house. Sukun checks the potted plants, and he finds that there is a person with a camera spinning on them. The male protagonist came to find the scientist. He shot the pot of the warning tree. Sukun knew he was the one behind the bulldozer, and he wanted him to explain everything clearly. But the scientist is still stubborn. He said, just complete the task. He will have a new clue, otherwise everyone around Sukun will be in danger. Through these words, the male protagonist doubted. It was he who had hired someone to attack him on Woolsey last night. But the scientist denied that it was not done by him, but by the head of parliament. Because he didn't have the information he needed, Sukun was extremely shocked, and the male protagonist was very impatient and threatened to shoot the scientist. Suddenly the neighbor came. Sukun hid the gun, and he pulled her hand back. The neighbor didn't understand what was going on. The male protagonist told the girl not to see the other man from now on. He was worried that he would do something to her, but she didn't agree. The neighbor wants to live her way. She also wants the male protagonist to have a life of her own, to live comfortably. Sukun returns home, and the prosecutor takes Woolsey back. The male and female leads each other to the room to confide. Sukun does not want Woolsey to be in danger. But the heroine said that there are still many people in the world who need to bring in police protection. She can't stop. So I just protect the world. I will protect you. Not a day later, Woolsey asked the male lead to take him to work. Unexpectedly, he was standing at the door after finishing the message. Sukun took her outside, and the prosecutor came back. He wanted to pick up the heroine to work, and the two men shook hands and enjoyed waking each other. On the other hand, the scientist called the speaker, declaring that he would expose the truth. But the wretched chief said, "The mercy of the nameless children. Saving the lives of the world's most powerful people is totally worth it. At least they have some effect. The scientist can't control his anger. I will force his crumbling corporation." The main south is looking for the place where the bastard bug is, hiding the children. Through the video with the words of the speaker before, Sukun suspected that this place was the hospital belonging to the chairman's group. He pretended to be a doctor to check. The male protagonist discovered a forbidden area he couldn't enter. Sukun attached a sneak camera device here. When he went out, the male protagonist met the abbot, but he didn't suspect anything at all. The next day, the prosecutor gave it to the female protagonist on the investigation side. In the scandal at the parliamentarian's hospital 19 years ago, Kunshi discovered a shocking secret. This hospital performs artificial sperm. The created children will have their organs harvested. No one knows where these organs were taken. The person who revealed the facts was a scientist, who disappeared shortly afterwards. The heroine felt that this was terrible, and also suspected that the recent cases were reported by the other scientist. The magic side also reported to Kunshi the sample taken from the ear at the speaker, along with the DNA of the missing female secretary. The heroine returned home to look for the chief, but this time she came with her wife and daughter. Kunshi asked him if he was just a prototype, a substitute for his lost daughter. "Have you ever treated me like a daughter?" The parliament ordered the search to answer never. Kuxi left disappointed. At this time the heroine's mother began to investigate the male lead. She remembered that she had met this Sogen before. It was the boy in the orphanage in the past, the mother who came to find the male lead. She confirmed that Sogen was the boy, and saw that Kanzai's mother came to find the male lead. The neighbor immediately called her, and the heroine immediately ran back. But everything was not as she thought. The mother did not make it difficult for Sogen, and she shyly invited the male protagonist to her room for dinner. Now that Sogen feels the warmth of his family, he seems very happy. In the evening, the male and female protagonists confided together. She asked him how he felt. The male protagonist nodded in response. It seemed that he also felt a little warm feeling. Seeing Sogen like this, the heroine was also cheered up, and suddenly Kuxi received a message. They find out that someone is threatening the counselor, and her face is about to change 180 degrees because the heroine realizes that this is Sogen's car. Kunshi recalled those details. She thought the male protagonist was the perpetrator of the recent mass murder. The heroine was upset and left, and at this time the assassin went to Sogen's clinic. He called the speaker of the news, and he ordered the assassin to act. On the other side, the female secretary smiled and tied up. She tried to escape, and the female secretary found out that the operating room of the evil people was about to be opened. She was afraid that the girl would run away, but as soon as she came to the door, Secretary Liu ran into a soldier, and the parliament chief also came here. She scolded him for being a scumbag, and the speaker went to arrest the female secretary. When it was time for her to die, the next day Kunshi came to find the male protagonist and asked about the car that appeared in front of the speaker's house. But Sogen wasn't at the clinic. Suddenly, the heroine discovers a secret vault in Sogen's clinic that she hasn't noticed before. She walked inside to check. This place was no different from a miniature base, full of ammunition tubes of all kinds. Kunshi was suddenly surprised by the scene in front of her. She didn't believe that Sogen was the killer. The distressed heroine walked out, and when she came to the door, she met Sogen. The heroine ordered to look at the male lead. He didn't know how to explain it to her, but suddenly Sogen discovered that there was a soldier outside. He let the uncle hide inside. The male protagonist went out to deal with it. He found the assassin beating the neighbor's brother. Sogen immediately rushed to relieve the danger. Kunshi also followed outside, and the two soldiers immediately attacked her. The male protagonist saw this and immediately launched a wave to take down both of them at the same time. He let the heroine lead the neighbor girl first, while he stayed to deal with the soldiers. They rushed to attack him with knives, although they were heavy on one, but they couldn't do anything about it. During a thrilling fight, when there was the sound of a police car, the sickle soldiers left, and Kunshi took his neighbor to the hospital to take care of him. The heroine advised her to stay in the hospital safely. At this time, the neighbor did not want to hide the story of 19 years ago. The little girl sent her legs to shake the assassin, who murdered her relatives for the heroine. Kunshi sighed. It turned out that Sogen was not her potential killer. And suddenly the heroine received a call from a colleague. He announced the death of the female secretary, and the police found her closely. Kunshi quickly ran to the scene. The only clue was also murdered, and the girl was helpless. However, the police still got a useful school degree, and found a UB hidden by the female secretary. It recorded the whole dirty plan of the speaker. The female secretary was sad. She couldn't accept that she was the daughter of a beast keeper. On the other side, Sogen went to the chief's hospital to investigate. Here, he discovered the specimens being cultured. They will create children for the chief to take the interior and sell to the rich. Sogen asks the doctor's name. Where will these children be taken after being created? The doctor's name is unknown. The male protagonist calls the name of the parliamentarian. He wanted to know where he hid the children, but the congressman was not shy. On the contrary, if he challenges Sogen, he will regret it. The male protagonist converted the time bomb into a dirty pile of experiments. Then the bomb exploded and destroyed everything. The hospital was immediately chaotic, and the speaker ran away without hesitation. After dealing with the consequences for the abbot, he returned home. The speaker ordered the assassin to bear the mark of the children. The assassin said that he had his juniors clean it up. The council chief handed him a gun. Go and deal with those who cross the road. At this time, Sogen followed the long-haired man to the place where they locked the children. The male protagonist walked into the surgery room to get internal surgery, and the long-haired man was waiting for him there. The male protagonist rushed into his neck, and the long-haired man stabbed him once. There were 2 more soldiers coming, so it didn't take long to deal with them. The long-haired man rushed over to flank him, and the male protagonist conveniently walked away. Later, Sogen finds the children who are locked up, and they keep asking him for help. On the other side, Hanzi returned to the male protagonist's secret base. She found an ice tape recording the scene of the villains taking the child's entourage. Hanzi called the police to confiscate the artifacts, and they took away all the things in Sogen's vault. The male lead also became the object of want. Suddenly, the heroine receives a call from Sogen to inform her of the news, and Hanzi immediately sets off. She went to the place where the animals hid the children. The female protagonist finds the children in Sogen's car, and the male protagonist calls Hanzi. He wanted to ask her to take care of the children and the girl next door. Sogen wants to end everything by himself. The heroine is so heartbroken. She advised the male protagonist to stop. She promised to make the parliamentarian pay the price. The male protagonist immediately turned off the phone, and Hanzi looked around, but she couldn't see her boy. Sogen stood in a corner watching the girl. He remembered the beautiful moments before. However, the male lead still has to finish the rest of the work. The police quickly arrived at the school, and they took the children to escape from hell on earth. Sogen saw this and left with peace of mind. The male protagonist went back to find his best friend. He wanted to know the scientist's location. The friend tells Sogen that the scientist is about to do something terrible. As he walked away, his face was extremely scary, so he gave his friend some necessary things to prepare for him. Britain will face off head-to-head with the chief minister. The next morning, his best friend brought a gun to the male lead. He advises Sogen to run away, but the male protagonist wants to settle everything. Because if you don't do it, no one will be able to stop the chief minister anymore. On the other side, the speaker spoke on the phone with the speaker. The speaker wanted him to take his place, but the speaker did not agree. He will avoid going abroad to bring things down. When the chief of the Western Council got into the car and fled, he found that there was someone here. The scientist held the star and asked the evil parliamentarian for a moment. He kept begging the scientist to spare his life. The speaker promised to testify against the evil chief of the council. But it wasn't that easy. The scientist strangled the parliamentarian to death. The police discovered something unusual, and they rushed over. The scientist quickly got into the car. The police traced the car. After settling the Western parliamentarian, the scientist returned. He saw a crowd coming to find him. The scientist told the male protagonist that he regretted turning the bucket into his chest. However, the scientist insists that it is not over yet. If the chief of the Western Council is still alive, there will soon be someone to help him get rid of his crimes. The speaker will take action against the children to cover up the clues. What needs to be done is to protect the safety of the children and make the chief minister pay the price. Suddenly, there was the sound of a police car coming. The scientist came out with animals to lure them busy. He paved the way for the male protagonist to escape from behind. At this time, the police were analyzing the suspicious video, obtained from the place where the children were locked up. They found that they were talking inside. It was along the west of the parliament. The heroine sets out to arrest him. In the closed room, the chief of the council was talking to a silver-haired old man. He was the chief prosecutor, and the chairman wanted the old man to help him cover up everything, and the silver-haired man agreed. But first, the speaker should just bend the street to investigate. At this time, MOD and the prosecutor arrived, and she put on the gate for her evil adoptive father with her own hands. When he returned to the post, he himself would interrogate the chief minister. He still refused to fly, refused to admit the crimes he had committed. MOD was also helpless against this corrupt father. The next day, the male protagonist returned to see his neighbor for the last time. He called the little girl, wanting to see her live well, but the neighbor only hoped that he would come back alive. The male protagonist couldn't help but immediately turn off the phone. He weakened the happy moments recorded in the past. This place is the family of Exo-hun. The younger sister couldn't forget her brother, helplessly sat down all over the place. In the evening when the mold returned, the heroine advised her neighbor to find a safe place to take refuge temporarily. But the girl didn't agree. The neighbor wanted to stay here and wait for the bucket to come back. Leaving this little sister behind, she hugged her neighbor in the ghostly lap. The little girl still cried forever, and in the morning the prosecutor received a direct order from the parliamentarian. He was extremely startled. The prosecutor wanted to find his superiors to clarify, but the superior also liked to take the speaker out. Knowing this, the prosecutor directly led the scientist to the front of the parliamentarian. He wanted them to confront. However, the scientist did not have time to say a word. The prosecutor let go of the sarcasm of the bastard chief. Seeing this, his superiors immediately became angry with him, and the chief minister constantly provoked the prosecutor. Little people like us are far from reading you. At all this, the scientist angrily rushed into the neck of the chief minister, and he was immediately dragged away by the police. The prosecutor said, "Just wait and see if I can catch him." The assassin came to the place to greet the chairman, and he called the person who solved the problem of the children. In order to completely erase the clues, the news that the parliamentarian was released after the scandal quickly spread. Knowing this news, Sakun is worried that the children will be in distress. He remembered what the scientist had said, to find the children and protect them. Before the council chief arrived, the children were put in the car by a nurse, who had been hired to take them away. Fortunately, the male protagonist arrived in time. He solved the nurse and led the children away. The police chased the car, and Sakun just wants to save the children from danger. The police found the car, but only the children were left inside. Sakun didn't see the breath. The male protagonist drove to a place that was the house of the parliamentarian. He quickly dealt with the guards, one of whom was lying down but still tried to give Sakun a bronze razor. Fortunately, he was only slightly injured because he was worried about the male lead, so he ran here. The friend saved Sakun a few shots from the assassin. Seeing his friend die because he saved himself, the male protagonist angrily stood up to face the assassin. The two said that each other's children were tense. The male lead won the victory over the opponent. Then Sakun walked into the chairman's room. He pointed a gun at him. He pulled the grass and shot down the damn old man's weapon. He knelt down and begged the male lead, and the speaker promised Sakun everything he wanted. What the male protagonist wants most now is that the old man has to pay for his crimes. At this time, when she arrived at the house, she saw that everyone here had died. The heroine holds a gun at the Sakun. She advises him to stop, and the police are also fat at the parliamentarian. The speaker smiled wickedly. He thought he was going to be saved. The male protagonist still fired the last shot, advancing the parliamentarian back to cut the dust. He was also shot by the police. At that moment, all the memories returned to Sakun. He lay in the hand of the heroine. She caught herself crying next to Sakun. The male protagonist closed his eyes and let go of all the weight he had endured all this time. After many efforts, the police also brought those who aided the speaker, committing misdeeds out into the light. Money and power are not things that are used to by human lives.